What's going on, everybody? We are here in New York City. So as you guys know, I'm a big fan of micro brands, and last time on my one video I mentioned a company called Brew watches. I'm actually joined here by Jonathan, the founder of Brew watches. So Jonathan, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
And I think an important thing to know before we really jump into the interview is a lot of people, they go against maybe wanting to make the jump into micro brands because the familiarity factor. Why not just go for a Seiko? But I think what I wanted to do with this video is really show from a guy that I think has developed a really interesting, unique watch, really solid value, what is it actually like to start a micro brand? So let's start with that. How did this all start?
Right. It's interesting for the design, the name, the branding, it was all very natural. I started designing for Movado in the very beginning, so that's where I got my roots.
Okay.
Movado was excellent with, I guess, the commercial way of doing business. Very corporate. This is the concept, mood boards. This is how you design it. This is working with the suppliers, final pieces, and then in the store display. Okay, that's the whole life cycle. And then I started doing freelance work for other guys afterwards. So the freelance part was interesting because they were sharing suppliers, they were sharing resources, the networks around the world. So then I had all of these assets where it was just a matter of, if I have an idea, which was Brew, I could kind of launch it, do like a soft launch, and see if I put this out into the world, if people enjoyed it. And Brew came about because I was designing everyone else's watches in the cafe. So it was kind of like a fun side project. It was never meant to be a business. It was never meant to be anything more than like a personal passion project. I didn't have any thought for a future of this. But I think people got really excited when, one, it was a very different look from most watches. And then two, it was just, this is some young, passionate guy that's putting this out there, and it doesn't feel like a big commercial brand doing this. So they were listening, they wanted to see more. And then before I knew it, it's just 3.5 years later, it snowballed. So.
That's great. So let's talk about the watch a little bit. As you mentioned, it does have a unique design. I will totally back that completely. It caught my eye when I was looking at micro brands. So let's just talk about the watch.
Yeah. So the question's always, for myself that I ask is, how do you design a silhouette first that's distinctive from the rest? So like right away I can spot a Nomos from the dial, not so much the outside silhouette, but the dial immediately. You could spot a Rolex immediately from sometimes the bezel, sometimes a coin edge bezel, or the size, the profile. Immediately you have a visceral feeling. So one of the fellows I worked with at a design company, he would take one of my 2D drawings, and one day he actually took a Sharpie and he Sharpied out the entire silhouette. He held it up to me and says, "Can you tell me what brand this belongs to?" I said, "I have no idea." Because it was just a simple round watch silhouette. I said, "Think about that, John. Everything from the silhouette to the shape to profile, every profile needs to register a signature brand or aesthetic that reads to you. So how you do that is very important."
That's really interesting. So are you a designer first?
Yeah.
Where did that background come from?
So I have an industrial design background.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So
that's perfect.
Anything from product to packaging to delivery, the whole 9 yards. I was fortunate that I had that background. My father also works for Tiffany's, and then our grandfathers were jewelry designers for Cartier.
Oh,
so like
you got the lineage, man.
It's nuts, and nobody pressured. It just kind of like I think naturally sometimes you fall into these grooves by what you're surrounded by. That's why they would say surround yourself with good people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that happened.
That's awesome, man. So this whole scene, I think micro brands, people like to see them as there's small little companies like pulling trying to. They don't have the ability and to really produce something of quality. You're going to end up coming in at a loss. You're probably not going to get anything of value. I've been really impressed. So these retail around $500.
Right.
Seiko movement. So talk about just kind of you as a company, and I say you as a company.
Yeah.
So I think there's a misconception a lot of people have. So maybe just talk about how you kind of started this and where the company's at.
Yeah. I think the real thing to think about is like quality to value. Like, what am I getting? And we're used to saying, if I spend this much, usually you get what you pay for. When I originally came out of the gates, I was saying to myself, I want more people to wear this than not. I don't want to price myself out that people say, I've never tried this before. I'll be reluctant because of the price point. So I said, okay, but I still need to build up the quality. So what was the perfect in-between? So I said I needed a mechanical movement. I needed it to be well built. Don't cut on materials like the sapphire, crystal, because immediately watch enthusiasts, they go through their checklist.
They do. I think they honestly have a checklist. They're ready to just cross something off.
And if that was mineral crystal, it's just like, well, maybe I'll buy a Movado. It's like, oh, no, don't do that. So it's like having that checklist complete, but also keeping the value super affordable. So for me, the more people that are wearing, the more successful I am, not in terms of sales, but in terms of awareness. So the more people that are chatting about this and understanding and appreciating it, that's a win for me,
Yeah, absolutely. So where did you talked a little bit about your background, but was there any other inspiration behind developing this watch?
Right. Yeah. So when I would work in the cafes, I was like, how do I draw like this experience that I'm enjoying? So I looked at the machines. For instance, La Marzocco machines. When you look at the machines, you look at the plates, the side panels, they have these really interesting little vented cutouts. So I wanted to have that in a subtle way on the case back. But for instance, I put a little coffee bean on the crown. And that kind of goes to my nature of wanting to instill an experience, a story, but it can't be so labeled in a way that becomes cliche.
Yeah.
So it still needs to be classic, but if you look, there's these aha moments. Even the little registers from 10 to 12.
I noticed that, yeah.
I call it the HP series, which means high pressure. And the reason I call it high pressure is, so when you're pulling a shot of espresso, there's a little pressure gauge on the machine, and that shoots up almost like an RPM on a car. So I said, oh, okay, well, I'll extract that little zone, and I'll put that into the watch. And again, if you don't know and you don't ask, it's hidden. But if you do ask, there's this embedded story in all the small, subtle details.
That's awesome. So design with purpose, which you don't usually see with a lot of smaller brands, actually even bigger brand companies that are selling watches, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So that's great, man. So what is next for you in Brew watches?
So that's the really cool part, is that every watch that a person gets comes from me, comes with a note, packaged by me, designed by me. So in that, I learn about what people love, what they hate. So I say to myself, for the next designs, how would I do it? And I always say to myself, it needs to be one part passion and then one part market research. Like, what are people saying? But I can't lose my personal passion and just fall into what people are asking for, because then I'll lose my brand identity. So with these two things intertwined, I'm going to evolve these models into the next stage. I guess I can give a little clue for the next.
All right. Spoilers. Love it.
Hand wound chronograph, like chiseling away at this, and just giving a lot more details to look under the loop, literally. So the closer you look, the more details you'll see. And that's everything from the finishing to the loom, the dials that I'm working on, and every single polishing portion on all of these surfaces. So just going one step further, many steps further, upsetting the manufacturers in points where this is too complicated, and I say, no, we need it. And they say, do you really? And I say, yes, they'll appreciate it. I think that's another thing. Manufacturers are understanding that there are lots of enthusiasts out there, and that they look at these details where maybe in the past they're able just to punch these out quickly, and the average person wouldn't notice. I'm like, no. Think Omega Rolex, where these guys are looking under loops. They need to really,
especially with the internet now, where you can constantly compare and contrast and take the knowledge that you can get from anywhere, and then just be able to, like you said, that checklist and go through it. That's what I see my viewers do all the time.
It's a buyer's market too. If you're a customer, you're getting the best product, and it's all the brands are competing for value. So if you want to, for at least I know in the micro brand realm, if you want to get a very good watch, you'll get an exceptional watch because they want you. In a way, I know I do. I want that person to have the watch. So it's just how do we make this work? It's how do I build the best value that you could still attain this and get a great watch?
So before we go,
yes,
please plug Brew Watches. Tell them where they can find you. Instagram. You have a really cool Instagram as well.
Yes. So for Instagram, it's @BrewWatches, and then on the website, it's brewwatches.com. You can find me there.
Awesome. So guys, I really am standing by what I'm saying. I think you've done a really awesome job in developing these watches. These are really cool. These are unique, and I'm excited what you have next, man. I'm really looking forward to it. So, awesome, man.
Thank you.